Welcome to Royal Secret. In the majestic halls of Amalienborg Palace, beneath the shimmering chandeliers and centuries-old portraits, a silent storm brews, one that not even Queen Mary of Denmark can ignore. The poised and ever-elegant monarch, once the unshakable heart of the Danish royal family, now finds herself in the most personal crisis of her reign, a heartbreaking rift between her two eldest children, Crown Prince Christian and Princess Isabella. What caused this royal fallout? Is it jealousy, pressure from the crown, or a deeper rebellion against the future that's been written for them since birth? As Queen Mary struggles to hold the family together, Denmark watches, wondering if the royal fairy tale is starting to fracture. As the portraits of the next generation are prepared to hang beside Denmark's royal ancestors, something far more fragile than art is beginning to crack: the royal bond between siblings. Because behind the framed perfection lies a tension years in the making. And even Queen Mary, for all her strength and diplomacy, cannot ignore the growing silence between her two eldest children. The question now haunting the palace isn't just about succession. It's about something far more personal. Can a royal family survive when love is second to legacy? The concept of the heir and the spare is nothing new in royal circles. But in Denmark, where modern monarchy tries desperately to soften the archaic edges of protocol, that age-old concept has taken on a newer, subtler shape. Prince Christian is not just the heir, he's the embodiment of the monarchy's future. He's the face of continuity, of national pride, of centuries of royal tradition. And Isabella, she's not the spare, she's something else, something undefined. And maybe that's the problem. She's the first royal in recent Danish memory to resist the mold, explains one royal historian. Not out of rebellion for its own sake, but because she's not convinced the mold fits her. Royal aides have described her as headstrong, creative, and, perhaps most troubling for a royal institution, free-thinking. She questions rules. She questions roles. And that questioning, when paired with Christian's increasingly rigid public image, has created a quiet friction between the siblings. There was a moment during a state event in early 2023, Isabella was joking with a diplomat's daughter backstage. Christian told her to stop. He said it was undignified. She stormed off. They didn't speak for weeks. By late 2024, Christian had already undertaken dozens of solo appearances, school visits, charity galas, formal receptions. The cameras followed him closely, portraying him as the polished, disciplined, mature young royal Denmark could trust. But eagle-eyed royal watchers noticed something odd. Isabella was often missing. Not just from solo appearances, but from joint events where she should have been present. When she did attend, she appeared composed but distant, frequently standing away from Christian, interacting more with foreign guests or Queen Mary than with her own brother. During the Queen's Foundation Gala at Christianborg Palace in November, the difference was glaring. Christian gave a prepared speech, his voice monotone and careful. Isabella, meanwhile, was captured laughing candidly with musicians, greeting young attendees with unguarded warmth. The media took notice. The future king and the people's princess? One Danish tabloid asked. Behind the headlines, a deeper question took root: was Isabella becoming more popular than Christian? And if so, what did that mean for the family balance? For Prince Christian, the crown is both destiny and burden. From the moment of his christening, every aspect of his life has been calibrated to reflect a nation's expectations. He is expected to be flawless, serious, and endlessly composed. But palace sources suggest that the pressure is beginning to take its toll. There's a sadness in him now, one former royal photographer noted. When he was younger, he and Isabella would goof off in front of the cameras. Now, it's like he's trying to become a statue. And statues don't laugh. They don't joke. They don't have messy sibling fights. They don't live. They reign. For Christian, the weight of the crown has meant shedding his former closeness with Isabella. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. He cannot be seen as casual. He cannot afford missteps. And perhaps, in his mind, Isabella is a risk he can no longer take. In early 2025, just before Queen Margrethe's final abdication ceremonies, tensions reached a peak. According to multiple sources, a private dinner held by Queen Mary at Fredensborg Palace turned into an emotional confrontation. What was intended as a quiet family evening, just Mary, Frederick, Christian, and Isabella, reportedly ended with tears, raised voices, and Isabella leaving the table early. One courtier described Queen Mary as visibly shaken. Afterward, she looked pale, devastated, like the family she worked so hard to keep together was slipping through her fingers. The Queen, known for her poised demeanor and diplomatic brilliance, was suddenly forced to face something even she couldn't control: the emotional unraveling of her children. And worse, she was being forced to choose. Not publicly, not overtly, but in small ways, every day. By supporting Christian's growing duties, by prioritizing appearances, by emphasizing hierarchy, she was being asked to elevate one child over another. A choice no mother should ever have to make. Some Danish observers have started to ask a controversial question. One even whispered behind palace walls: was Isabella born into the wrong role? Charismatic, intelligent, warm with the public, she possesses all the traits of a natural leader. Yet, because of birth order and centuries-old rules, she will never wear the crown. And Christian, for all his grace and discipline, lacks her spark. He's quiet, serious, careful, more diplomat than dreamer. Sometimes you wonder, said a royal scholar, if Denmark would be better off with Isabella as queen. But that's not how monarchies work. And that's the tragedy. In the face of growing tension, Queen Mary has begun to quietly shift her approach. Insiders say she's lobbying behind the scenes for Isabella to take on a more defined role within the monarchy, something akin to Sweden's Princess Madeline or the UK's Princess Anne. Mary's idea, reportedly, is to give Isabella independence within the crown, assigning her unique causes, ambassadorships, and modern roles that allow her freedom while preserving unity. She doesn't want to lose her daughter to resentment, a source explained. But she knows the institution can't bend too far without breaking. Some believe that Mary is planning an international tour for Isabella, a solo royal initiative that would allow her to shine without overshadowing Christian. But whether that plan will succeed, or only widen the gap, is uncertain. The most dramatic rumors, however, come not from palace insiders, but from abroad. Some sources in Australia, where Queen Mary's family still resides, claim that Isabella has quietly expressed interest in taking a gap year, or extended study period outside Denmark, perhaps in Sydney or Melbourne. If true, it could mark a symbolic break from the monarchy's core, geographically, emotionally, and politically. Imagine the future queen's daughter living outside the country, one Danish politician said. It would send a clear message: Isabella doesn't feel at home in the crown. Others see it as a warning sign. If Isabella drifts too far, could she eventually step away from royal duties altogether? And if that happens, what does it mean for Queen Mary's legacy? The House of Glucksborg has survived wars, scandals, and abdications. But now, it faces something far more fragile: a fracture between siblings that no crown can mend. As Queen Mary tries to hold her family together, Denmark is left wondering, can the royal family adapt before it loses the very bond that makes it human? Or is the rift between Isabella and Christian already too wide to heal? Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.